Hey everyone, we got Vermilion Blade Ardyn yesterday. I sadly didn't get him from my ticket pulls, but we can still check him out regardless. So, much like Noctis, he's a physical chainer in base with Sword in Peril, but Ardyn has Dark Element attached to it, and in his Brave Shift he's a Dragoon, or you can use him as an LB chainer, but I wouldn't. So the abilities, pretty much the same as Noctis, but they tend to be dark. The only difference here really is that his Power of the Kings of the Daemons diseases all enemies, and it's 150 Fairy Killer. Only physical though, mind you. The rest 120 Dark, to Mirage stacks he can add Dark Element to himself, pretty much the same as Noctis. And the same applies to the physical, to the passive side of things, where he has human and fairies, for example, whereas Noctis has the Reaper and human. No, not human. He has the Reaper, and something else. I forgot what else it was. Yeah, his limit burst, pretty much the same as Noctis's, elementless, 100x, and 25 Sword in Peril. So let's skip that. He has it on turn 1, by the way, which is pretty sweet, just like Noctis. Now here come a few differences to Noctis. The main one is Retribution. Vermilion Blade Ardyn is only 83x, but it doesn't have any element to it, which is one of the upsides of Ardyn, because Noctis is locked to light on his jump, whereas Ardyn, he is flexible in that regard. But the lower modifier, it does make a difference, and you will see how much of a difference it makes at the end of the day. Phantasm is his skill unlock, 300 attack, LB damage, 20 dark amp. He unlocks Spectral Charge, which is the same thing as Arm Igor from Regear. I don't know how you pronounce that spell from Noctis, but it's the modifier increase 6x in total, so for 89x jump at the end of the day. He also can imperil Dark with his grandest 5 uses per battle. The rest of it is the same. He also has Warp Strike Pain, which is a 125x 1 enemy attack with 6 hits at 48 LB cost. Trustmaster is pretty much the same as with Noctis, just different elements. So his Trustmaster sword, 162 attack, 100 jump damage, 10%, undispellable 10 dark amp, physical and magical. It's a very good sword and probably the only one for dark amp sources, but if you want a dark amplification, you are probably using Venera regardless for a 25% dark amp to the whole party. So there's no point in using this sword, as it also has a very low attack stat. The gloves, which are his STMR, they are as good as Noctis's. So 50% dark resistance, 100% jump damage for FFBE, Final Fantasy 15 only, if I'm not entirely mistaken. No, that is unconditional. That is unconditional. I forgot about that. No, I think it's Final Fantasy 15. I should check, but it should be Final Fantasy 15 only. But the real kicker here is 50% human killer physical, which is pretty sweet. It's best in slot for almost every case, especially against humans. Highest attack gloves in the game, together with Noctis's STMR, that is. And, well, it just adds on superb stuff on top of being highest attack. Vision card, it is pretty much the same as with Noctis. So 110 attack at level 10, 80 attack percent, wearing a sword from 4 and 7 combined, and at level 10 you gain 50 jump damage and 50% light resistance. Much like the Noctis vision card, it's superb, uses the most common weapon type. It's still busted on Noctis and Ardyn alike due to jump damage increase, and it's a very good card in general, especially for those of the users who are wearing swords, because it's 80% and 110 attack. And also the animation is quite funny. Ardyn riding next to Noctis and the Choco Bros in their regalia. Okay, so let's check out the best in slot build with EX plus 3 stats shown. Don't worry, I do have a budget build too. So yeah, much like Noctis, he's wearing Ultima Blade twice, he's wearing the Trickle Pro's hat plus. I used the Kingly Raiment for the only reason because his STMR wasn't working on the builder whenever I put it in at the time I did this. The builder would bug out and show less attack than it should have been, so I used Noctis's one and that works apparently. But yeah, double Warlord Guard legs, the usual stuff. And I built him towards the killer type he's not innately good at, which is Demon, for example, in this case. But still, he caps out on all the things. So regardless whether it says 700 jump damage, this is a bug. Like I said, it is 800. And I also calculated all the damage done with 800 jump damage. So yeah. Just like I did with Noctis, I'm using a killer type he's not innately good at. And the rotation is pretty much the same. Turn 1, you use his Limit Burst for Assault in Peril, then Brave Shift, Phantasm, Endless Dark, Warp Shadow. You don't need Warp Shadow, but what else are you going to do? On turn 3, you're going to use Spectral Charge Plus, and Spectral Charge Plus. Turn 4 is Retribution, which is his jump. And on turn 5, you're going to land. It's pretty much that easy to use him. Okay, and here's the budget build I was talking about, and let's compare this to Noctis as well. And as you can see, both of them have very respectable attack stats, but Noctis has a little bit higher attack. So that is something you have to keep in mind when comparing the damage. Now 8 attack might seem minuscule, but this adds up on EX plus 3. And both are using the same gear, as you can see. There is no difference. I made this as free-to-play friendly as possible. Now, granted, I am still using 4 STMRs in total. On Noctis, that is. Weapon Specialist is an STMR, but it's a quite old one, so yeah, I think this is a fair assumption, just as is Ultima Blade, but I made this as easy with just 1 Ultima Blade. And Memories of Ragnarok and Dragoon's Wisdom both were on the Noctis banner last week and the week before that. So it's a fair assumption you got 1 at least from both, if you pulled for Noctis, that is. So yeah. So these are the builds. Let's check out the comparison assumptions. We are using a full wind team with Dark Vision's Wind Amp, meaning 45-25 amps and a 20% stage amp for a total of 104 amplification on Ardyn and Edgar and 74% amp on Noctis. Now, why 104 and 74? Easy. You gain 70% from Ferris and Bards and you have to add 20% on top. Now, technically speaking, 70 multiplied by 2 is 84. However, if you are dealing 100 damage and add on 70%, you are at 170, right? And if you add 20% on top, you are at 204, which is 104 amp total. And 74 amp for Noctis. But even if we don't take the stage amp into consideration, things don't change that much. So yeah. 22,500 defense boss, 50% passive, 60 elemental resistance, 90 break, 130 wind, 120 light in peril. Noctis has the combination halved of these two, so 125. We are using the 25% sword in peril, and EX plus 3 plus EX plus 1 for the other one is considered here. The results really don't change when lowering EX level ceteris paribus, meaning holding all other things constant, meaning same gearing, etc. And they are using 300 attack buffs. So here's the damage. As you can see, all EX plus 3. The difference between Ardyn and Noctis is very, very small, as you can see. 1115 for Ardyn, 1107 million or 1.1 billion for Noctis. They both overshadow Edgar by a huge margin, and at EX +1, even then, with budget gear, they are still dealing more damage than a best-in-slot Edgar at EX +3. I guess this should tell you the whole picture. Now I'm realizing the value on Ardyn's damage is a little bit cut off, but it should be 719.22 million damage. So at best in slot, Ardyn is just a measly 0.7% stronger than Noctis on a wind team, which is highly favoring the former, meaning Ardyn. At EX +1 with budget gear, Ardyn is 1.1% stronger than Noctis. So yeah, as you can already see, Ardyn is more a side grade to Noctis, all things considered. But the Sword Emperor is still super unique and might secure Ardyn a slot regardless, especially with him being elementless, that is. He's super easy to build and has best in slot clothes, plus a superb vision card. He provides super high damage for all upcoming challenges and buffs. 150, no, not Human Killer, I made a mistake, it's Fairy Killer. I don't know why I wrote Human Killer. Maybe I was confused with his STMR. But it's Spirit Killer. I will correct that on via editing. Due to the huge global buffs, they make him hit faster and way harder than Edgar, as you've seen. And Ardyn is not only more flexible with respect to turn timers than Edgar, but he's also more flexible with respect to elements than Noctis, giving a very, very slight edge in damage done. Now, keep in mind, I don't have this on the slides, but with Descendant of Cetra Aerith coming up, Noctis will have the upper hand. And the reason is Aerith provides a 45% light amp. Now, Ardyn obviously can make use of that light amp as well. But when both are amplified with light and imbued with light, there is still the issue of Noctis having 106 modifier and Ardyn only having 89 modifier. And with Noctis having the higher base attack or total attack, Noctis will deal significantly more damage than Ardyn with a proper light amplification. So keep that in mind. So should you pull? Well, if you care about dark visions and high scores, yes, absolutely. Especially if you want to score in a top 100, you will use, and you have to use, both Noctis and Ardyn regardless. Like I said, he's more flexible than Noctis when it comes to element usage, but dealing a little bit more damage, so very little more. Ardyn may and probably will see use regardless of DV due to his uniqueness of Sword Emperor and his high damage plus easier to use global version. But if your resources are still scarce, Lapis, Transcendence Pearls, or time due to Chronicle Battles grind, you may just keep using Edgar and skip him for dark visions or anything else. Edgar probably will only see use for 1 or max 2 dark visions before we get Zidane and the likes, and then it's over for the Dragoons for the upcoming months. Sadly, I like the Dragoons. But yeah, that is pretty much the end of this unit review. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to join the Discord where we talk about Final Fantasy Brave Exvius and other things just as much. We meme around and have fun all together. So I hope you liked this. I hope this was helpful to you. I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see each other for a new content, something new that I prepared. You're gonna see it. It's going to be a top 5 or top 10 list. I'm not quite sure just yet. But it's a cool video that I have prepared for tomorrow and for Sunday too. So hope you enjoyed it. Have a great weekend and Friday afternoon. Bye bye.